Okay, so what we're about to dive into is, according to the sources, quite possibly the single biggest betrayal in human history. We're talking about a secret sale, a global contract, and a mysterious countdown to an event that's known only as Day X.
So let's start with a really simple but huge question. What if the entire world, your country, your home, all of your rights, was just sold off in some secret backroom deal more than 25 years ago, and nobody ever told you? And what if there's a specific day on the calendar, Day X, when a single court decision is going to make that sale a public, undeniable reality and trigger a total global collapse? Well, that's the absolutely incredible claim that we're going to unpack today. So that brings us to Day X, or Tag X, as it's called in the original German source material. Let's get right into what these documents claim is waiting for all of us, right around the corner.
According to this narrative, Day X isn't just the day the secret gets out, it's the trigger. It's the moment that's supposed to unleash worldwide state bankruptcy, cause crazy hyperinflation, a massive stock market crash, the total collapse of currencies like the dollar and the euro, and get this, the end of international law as we know it. And ultimately, it's the thing that's supposed to kick off a third world war. Basically, a complete reset, but a really violent and chaotic one. So you've got to be asking, how could something so huge even be possible? Well, this whole theory, this entire thing, it all hinges on one single, very obscure document, what the sources call a legal weapon of mass destruction.
And this is it, the Statens Successionsurkunde 14098, which pretty much translates to the World Succession Deed. The claim is that on October 6, 1998, this contract was signed, but it was disguised to look like a totally boring sale of a NATO property in Germany. But, hiding in plain sight, it was supposedly a juristisches Massenvernichtungsinstrument, a legal instrument of mass destruction, specifically engineered to transfer sovereignty over the entire globe.
Now, the timeline for how this all supposedly went down is absolutely critical. It apparently starts with these secret negotiations from 95 to 98. Then comes the signing on October 6, 1998. But here's the crucial part. A 2-year objection period then expired in the year 2000, which allegedly made the whole deal permanent and binding under international law. And that brings us to today, with the timeline pointing to a German court ruling in 2025 that's expected to be the final trigger. But come on, how could the sale of one little piece of property in Germany possibly lead to selling the entire planet? Well, the mechanism described in the source material is like a domino effect, a kind of legal contagion. So here's how it supposedly worked, in 4 steps. First, that one NATO property gets sold. Second, a very specific clause sells all of its infrastructure, all the utility lines, as a unit, or Erschließung als Einheit. Now the third step is the real kicker. This allegedly legally infects every connected global network, power grids, telecom lines, the undersea internet cables, everything. And finally, through that massive interconnected web, sovereignty is supposedly transferred from one nation to the next until the whole world is covered. But behind all this abstract legal theory, there's a real person at the center of it. So who on earth would buy the world? Well, according to the sources, it was somebody who had absolutely no clue what they were actually signing. The documents claim that the buyer was only 19 years old when all this started, just a young guy trying to get into real estate who was apparently completely duped. He thought he was buying a few dozen apartments, never realizing he was being used as a pawn to sign away the fate of the entire world. And his story, as the sources tell it, gets really, really dark. He's not free anymore. This quote claims he is gefoltert, erpresst, entmenschlicht, which means tortured, blackmailed, dehumanized. And why? Denn wenn redet, bricht die Welt zusammen. Because if he talks, the world collapses. He's allegedly being held in some kind of Blacksite, silenced to keep this massive secret from ever getting out. Now, according to this narrative, none of this was an accident. It was a super carefully crafted plan for world domination. But, and this is a huge but, the sources claim the whole plan went spectacularly wrong. The plot was supposedly a classic bait and switch. Step 1, Germany sells the world to this teenager. Step 2, they trick him into signing it all right back to them. Step 3, on Day X, they announce their new world order. But that's not what happened. When it was time to transfer ownership back, some mysterious double agents supposedly sabotaged the final signing, and the result? The original buyer, the guy they tricked, allegedly remains the sole, legal, and now tortured owner of the entire planet.
Okay, but why does any of this legal drama matter to us, right here, right now? Well, the sources claim that this secret is the hidden reason for the really strange state of our global financial system, that we are allegedly living on borrowed time.
So why would other world leaders even go along with this? Well, the incentive was supposedly a principle in international law called tabula rasa, or the clean slate rule. This rule says that when a new state is founded, it starts with zero debt. So, knowing that on day X, all the old nations would disappear and a new world state would be born, leaders apparently went on a crazy consequence-free spending spree, racking up mountains of debt they knew would just get wiped away.
And as their proof, the sources point to the explosion of national debt, using the U.S. as a prime example. From its founding in 1776 all the way to the year 2000, that's 224 years, the U.S. racked up about $4 trillion in debt. But in the 25 years or so since the contract's objection period supposedly expired, that number has shot up by another $32 trillion. It's an insane accumulation of debt that this theory says was all part of the plan. So, to wrap up their case, the sources present what they call these 9 unshakable points. The core ideas here are that this is a totally valid international treaty, the buyer is now the sole sovereign ruler, and maybe most importantly, the deal became final and irreversible when that 2-year objection period ran out way back in 2000. The source material really does present this whole thing as the ultimate betrayal, like a silent coup against all of humanity. And it leaves us with a pretty chilling question based on their narrative. If any of this is actually true, what in the world happens when that countdown finally hits 0 on day X?